All right, welcome back to the Power 2 here on College Football Addiction. TJ Pittinger, Tom Hannafin, and Cole Thompson. I almost just totally went with the wrong last name for both of you. Just like swapped that around. But I somehow
Tommy Thompson and Cole Hannafin here.
Somehow got it right and then still told everybody how much of an idiot I was. Like totally could have not
You could
done
just
that.
played it off completely.
Yeah. I mean, no, I believe in transparency on this show.
Show starts now. There we
go. Thank you guys for joining us back again for another week of a bunch of college football news and talk and middle of May drama. I don't know. Yeah, some of that. But before we get started, Cole texted us that he needed to go on a rant. And so I need to hear what this is about before we jump in. You can see the outline there. UNC, Bill Belichick, #1 recruit to Miami. Big Noon Kickoff will rant about #1 team in the country, kind of project there. But before we get into any of that, Cole, what's on your mind?
Okay. So last week, I was bold enough to say, let's go ahead and have a way too early college football playoff projection. I put my neck out on the line and said that I believe in these 12 teams will do enough to make the dance, to then play against each other and put themselves in a position to win a national title. And naturally, as somebody who believes that Penn State this year, despite having a coach that seems to always find a way to fumble the bag at the 1-yard line, despite having a quarterback that I have significant questions on, the rest of the roster is so well put together that I believe that right now they are the favorites in the Big Ten. And because they are the favorites in the Big Ten, and because I think the SEC has a little bit more trajectory and I would say good balance at the top, the #1 seed is Penn State. And every single day for the last week, I have gotten comments, replies, DMs, threats even in my inbox on Twitter. You A, don't know ball, and B, can't continue to believe that Penn State is going to get the job done. Penn State is going to lose to Notre Dame. Penn State is going to lose to Georgia. Penn State is going to lose to Ohio State. They're not going to get it done, you moron, you nitwit. So here is my proposition to you. If you would like to continue to come into my comment section at Mr. Cole Thompson on Twitter, I am very much available to listen to all of your nonsensical crap. Give me a reason why, other than the following. 1, it's James Franklin. 2, it's Penn State. And 3, name the last time they've done it. Because of college football is meant to have records broken. College football is meant to have upsets occur. College football at its finest is not seeing the same team and the same results happen every single Saturday. It's why James Franklin went out and decided to hire a defensive coordinator that beat him to oblivion last year and won a national title. It's why they spent money in the transfer portal. It's why they spent money on retaining talent inside the locker room, like a Drew Aller, like a Katron Allen, like a Nick Singleton. That is why. So enough with the crap of it's Penn State. When are they going to get the job done? It's Penn State. It's now or never for James Franklin because of literally when else is it going to be? So give me something other than just it's Penn State. My God.
Tom, as a resident Penn State guy, I feel like we've got to hear a follow-up from you on this.
Listen, I kind of had an inkling this is where this was going, so I decided to kind of step back for a little bit here. I am a lifelong Penn State fan. I got my degree from Penn State, so did my mom, so did my older brother. I cover the team now for the last 4 years for the Believe Network, so I am super biased. I hear arguments for why Penn State should not be the preseason #1. However, it's pretty hard to go against them. The only other teams that I think that would be credibly ahead of them, I'd hear an argument for Texas. I'd hear an argument for Clemson. I'd hear an argument for Ohio State, but it's such a big question of what quarterback's going to be and defense. So all those reasons that Cole just stated, listen, if you're going to be lazy and just say, well, it's because Penn State hasn't done it historically, then how many people were guessing TCU would be in a national title game a handful of years ago? Like, what are we talking about? This is the beauty of college football, to your point. And Penn State, on paper, has every reason to credibly contend for the national championship in 2025. Cry me a river.
Arizona State went 3-9 and then made the college football playoff as the Big 12 champion, went to double overtime against Texas, and still has a roster of 95% returning production. Yet somehow more people find that hard to believe than Texas A&M consistently going 8-4 every single year in the SEC. That is where we are with college football. So spare me the narrative that, oh, because of its Penn State, they're going to find a way to lose. Ohio State lost a ton, including coordinators. I don't really like the hires that they made at either coordinator position, though Brian Hartline, I think, could prove me wrong. Oregon has major questions at the quarterback position, and everyone else seems to be on the same pathway that Penn State right now going into 2025 is better than Oregon and Ohio State and Indiana and Illinois and every other topsy-turvy Big Ten team on paper. So please, I beg you, give me a reason. I will listen to your reason. I will listen to your factoids. I will listen to whatever synopsis you come up with when it's not A, it's James Franklin, and B, it's Penn State. I can't do it anymore. I'm just going to block you. I'm just going to throw you in my trash bin. I'm just going to pretend like you didn't message me because of it's such a bland, blah narrative. And all you're doing is you're saying exactly what everyone else is saying. Dare I be bold enough to go ahead and say that Penn State could play for a national title? Dare I be willing to stick my neck out on the line when all you want to do is follow the little crowd because if you want to be just part of the louder resistance and not part of the small minority.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is you're giving them number one. You're not predicting that they are the national champions at the end of the year, right? Like I didn't. No. I mean, in the NBA, and I know this is not an NBA show, but in the NBA, didn't Cleveland and Oklahoma City just kind of come out of nowhere to both take number one seeds? Like you're telling me like this isn't possible in sports for Penn State to be the number one team? Like now. Did Cleveland crash out? Does it look like Oklahoma City's in trouble? Sure. But I do think that just being the number one seed is maybe people just can't read. Maybe that's what maybe they think you're projecting a national championship, which maybe you'll go that far as well. But anyway, maybe
I have them losing to Texas because it still is James Franklin at the 1 yard line. Like
right. that was the thing
difference.
That was the thing that like I did see your projection for the playoff, and you had Texas beating Penn State for the national championship. So there was part of me as a fan that I was like, "Oh, great, we make the national title game, but we still lose," and I'm like, I would be heartbroken. But yeah, wouldn't that be very on brand with Penn State?
Again, it could be on brand with it just having a few more ingredients added into the recipe.
I told Cole this, but Cole also had UNLV in the playoff, and man, would that make my Seminole heart happy to see Dan Mullen in the playoff before Florida gets there. Just if there's one thing I want, it's to not win 2 games this year. But if there's a second thing that I want, it is UNLV to go to the playoff. Like now that I hadn't even really thought about that because. Sorry to the group of 5 folks that may watch, but like, you kind of put that out of your mind. You don't think about that as much. That is just something that would do my heart so much good. So the pettiness lives on. All right. Last week we started with Tom on the Bill Belichick stuff. This week we won't probably go as long into it because it seems like it maybe cooled down a little bit. We got some news last week with Jordan being banned from the thing and then others saying she wasn't. And now Bill's come out on ESPN and said she's not part of the program. I'll let Cole start out because he's kind of hot today. Anyway, so let's talk about Bill Belichick and UNC and then we'll move on.
Is he going to coach a game? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe he will. And I do believe that once you start winning football games, that becomes the first and only real major thing that is going to be a part of the conversation. And well, it should be because of North Carolina has a very relaxed schedule outside of the Clemson and TCU game. They have a quarterback that I think that all of us have seen up close and in person may end up being one of the better ones in the ACC by the season's end. There's a lot to like about what UNC's schedule allows them to build a rapport to when they play against the more compelling matchups. They might have an opportunity to go to Charlotte, but everyone wants to just focus in right now. What is the narrative around the program? What is the narrative around Bill Belichick and the situation with Jordan Hudson? And I'm not here to say that one thing outweighs the other, but if Bill wants to be somebody that is willing to allow a 24-year-old to have final say on so many different elements, then by all means, that's cool. It's not welcomed at Chapel Hill. It was never assigned or agreed to upon at Chapel Hill. What was agreed to upon was him having say on the program and the identity that was going to take the Tar Heels to the next level. And so that needs to be the focus. And if that means that Jordan Hudson has to be away from the program, not have final say on a lot of things, not be included on emails, allow this to be a coach derivative process, then by all means. But if Bill doesn't want to do that, come June 1st, the buyout is set in place to where he will be able to walk away. UNC won't be out of a lot of money. But the question then turns to what happens with the rest of the players that could enter the transfer portal. Because remember, you have that 30-day allocation window. How many of those players are actually connected to Bill because of UNC, the fact that Bill Belichick is there? Those are things that are going to become subject to conversations. But let's just try to get through the next couple of weeks. Hopefully this all kind of dies down, and Bill will be coaching on the sidelines come week 1. Or I guess it will be, where is that game? Is that going to be in Chapel Hill, or is that one in, that was not in Dublin. That's next year in Dublin, right?
Yeah,
I
correct.
think so.
Yeah.
It's TCU to open.
It's TCU, but it's at Amon G, isn't it?
I think
It's at Amon G. Carter. Anyways, wherever the game is, whether it be at Chapel Hill or whether that be at Fort Worth, let's see Bill on the sidelines, win a football game.
It is in Chapel Hill, and it's the Monday night game.
That's right. It is the Monday night game.
It's Monday night game. So
get to Labor Day weekend. Get to the Monday.
You saw the ESPN report come out that says there's a real chance he doesn't coach. I mean, I love the drama. Don't get me wrong, especially in May when there's nothing to talk about other than Cole's horrible lists.
Yeah.
But I would be very sad if we don't get to see Belichick coach. Like, that would suck. Like, and I don't really care what happens with UNC. I don't care if they win 10 games or 2 games. I am completely irrelevant to me. I would like to see how it goes, right? Like, if you have all this, it'd be like if Deion would have never coached that first ironic that his first game was against TCU as well. But it'd been like if you had all that hype for Deion the whole offseason and then something happened, he got sick or went to another job or just whatever. This would feel like a disappointment if we didn't get to see him coach in this game. Here's the question, though. I'll throw it to Tom. Tom, feel free to share any thoughts on what Cole said, too. Does he coach the game in Dublin, though? Does he coach week 1 in 2026?
I mean, that's tough. My gut right now says no. There's a lot of stuff here. And again, like, we're going to follow this for another 2 weeks until that June 1st threshold goes out there. I completely agree with Pablo Torre because that date is out there for him to leave. But at the same time, like, I think the last time we looked at it, nearly 20 players had come into the program via the transfer portal and nearly 20 players had exited via the transfer portal. So obviously Mike Lombardi is working his butt off as a GM and they're recruiting. You continue to see Bill Belichick out there. So if he left by June 1st, you leave UNC in a really, really bad situation as a football program for this upcoming year. That would be an enormous story for one of the most respected and appreciated coaches in the history of the game to just be like, I'm out. I'm going to go hang out with my 24-year-old psycho girlfriend. Like, there's so many layers to, like, promises you've made to families, whether they were promises or even just NIL agreements. Like, I do feel bad for Gio Lopez and all this because I think he could be a brilliant quarterback for UNC this upcoming season under the tutelage of someone like Bill Belichick, who has shown that he will be hard on quarterbacks but get results. Like, no one cares about what's going on with UNC football. Like, I'm not going to be heartbroken if he doesn't coach. I kind of want to see the flames. I want to see this explode. And here's the other thing about this is that no one is talking about the football element with UNC. However, Bill Belichick, when he hopped on ESPN, I think it was yesterday, he was live. He was interviewed at the ACC meetings and he's talking all football. Like, if you've ever taken media training, this is classic deflection because the last 2 questions from the host were about Jordan Hudson and his answer was Jordan is not a part of UNC football. And he immediately pivots and he gets back to, I'm just excited about June and our players and our coaches and all that stuff. Classic 101 media training. You know what was the dumb thing that he said? We consider UNC the 33rd NFL franchise in that he's like, oh, we're operating under a pro model because that is his experience. And he experienced a lot of people on his staff. UNC as the 33rd NFL franchise, even if that's a branding and marketing tool that you're using in NIL and recruiting and everything, you are such a dumpster fire right now to even consider yourself in category is profoundly stupid and misguided. You know why it's misguided? Because he's not paying attention to the football program. He's paying attention to the second runner-up in the Miss Maine pageant. And I have vacationed in the state of Maine for the bulk of my existence on this earth. And let me tell you, to win Miss Maine, it doesn't take that much. I love the people there. I love it up there. But Jordan Hudson, holy crap, are you a disaster? And I love watching it.
Can we just say that it's also really dumb to be called the second runner-up? Like that has been bothering me for the last 24 hours. It's third place. You came in third place. That was it. That's what you did. You came in third place in the state of Maine. It wasn't Texas. It wasn't Georgia. It wasn't California. It's Maine. It's Maine, and you came in third place. Here's the other part that's really, really frustrating. I think you look at this from a North Carolina standpoint, or if you're a Bill Belichick standpoint. The family is getting involved because they understand how big of a media outlash this is. It's no longer just surrounding Bill Belichick, the football coach. You're in grocery store lines looking at US Weekly, looking at People magazine. Guess what's on the front cover? Bill Belichick and his livelihood. So this is going to continue to follow in a pathway well after if he is no longer coaching in Chapel Hill. So regardless, the media outstorm that has come from this, simply because of the way that a 24-year-old handled herself, and people did investigative journalism to find out more information about her livelihood and background and how they met, instead of just facing the music head on, has now created a Mongol of misery for a lot of people involved in this situation, including Bill Belichick himself, who I guarantee you, when he initially signed on the dotted line to go to Chapel Hill, it was all about him just being a football coach for another season. He wasn't ready to hang up whistle. He wasn't ready to stop calling the X's and O's. And now he's got to deal with all of this backlash because of a 24-year-old, dare I say this, and it's not to be disrespectful to Jordan Hudson. This is one of the very few times I'm actually trying to be nice. A 24-year-old's brain is completely different than a 35-year-old's brain or a 45-year-old's brain. A 24-year-old is allowed to act like that, but you shouldn't be allowed to act like that with a 73-year-old six-time Super Bowl champion who's trying to bring back relevance to North Carolina football.
Cole tried to be respectful there. Tom literally used the word psycho, and that might have to be the thumbnail for this. So, all right, let's talk about the number one recruit in the country. Jackson Canwell picks the Miami Hurricanes. This was sucked for me. I had some good trolls lined up for this, but it doesn't go my way, and Georgia doesn't get it done. I don't know, Cole. We can. I don't know who wants to take this. We can bounce around either way.
I've been crazy for the last 20 minutes.
We both have. This has been a great show so far. Yeah, I just found this whole thing very interesting. So last year, the class 2025 was ranked 13th overall, according to 24/7 Sports, for Miami. And then as of now, the number 9 class for 2026. So clearly, Mario Cristobal and company doing a very good job recruiting. They continue to do a good job in the transfer portal. This is clearly a program that is not hurting for funding and NIL support, all that sort of stuff. Here's the thing, and going back to the aforementioned ACC meetings, there's a story out there that there was a loud yell of joy that came down the hallways when Mario Cristobal and his staff learned that Cantwell had committed to Miami. The last time I can think of a reaction like that was Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Day. We remember him collapsing at the podium. Like, there are very few players at the high school level that really garner a huge reaction from coaches, and very few that we actually get to see on camera or at least recorded or reported of some kind. So obviously there's a lot of buzz about Cantwell. Looking in a variety of different places, depending on where you look, 24/7 Sports has him listed at 6'7.5", 325 pounds. I've seen some that say he's closer to 300 pounds. It's the big question mark of putting that much money down for a kid coming out of high school, period. And Michigan is about to go through that, granted, at quarterback, which I'd argue is a higher risk, bigger gamble because of the significance of the position. But outside of that, we talk about it, the NFL model all the time. What are the next positions that you pay? You pay your left tackle and you pay your pass rusher. Okay. So if Cantwell is maybe going to be a starter day one, like, do they think enough of him that he could do that? And can he reclassify and get himself there quickly? Like, all those sorts of questions being out there. It's still a huge transition for an offensive lineman from the high school level to the college level, especially the ACC, which is not obviously the SEC or the Big Ten, but you're still going to face some really good competition. Maybe he has success because of that whenever he first hits the field. The learning curve, the physical learning curve as well, is enormous for offensive linemen. So I'm just kind of wait and see on this whole thing. I think this is a departure in this whole grand NIL experiment of, we've talked about the Underwood money, the Nico money, and now Canwell money. It's like, oh, it's migrating from quarterback to tackle. When's that going to be for a pass rusher? When's that going to be for a wide receiver? That sort of stuff. So the jury is still very much out for me with Cantwell, and that's like, great. He's the greatest offensive line prospect ever. Love to hear what a senior for the Miami Hurricanes thinks about that, lining up opposite him. Is like, I'm going to light this guy up, that sort of thing. So he's going to have to compete. He's going to have to learn. Whether, I don't think it's a slam dunk at all. Too many things can happen.
There has been so much said from multiple sides about the entire Canwell situation, whether it's how much he is getting paid by Miami to go not play in the Big Ten or in the SEC, whether it be Cantwell saying that Pete Nakos doesn't know what he's talking about, whether it be the fact that Miami is paying for a player that they could probably get multiple versions of him and use that money elsewhere. Whatever it is, I'm here to set the record straight. Number one, anybody complaining about him getting paid, whatever the actual amount is, stop talking. Seriously, stop talking, because of money is always going to be a deciding factor in so many different facets. I love working with you guys. I absolutely appreciate the fact that we get to come on here and shoot the breeze and have good conversations about college football. But if ESPN calls me tomorrow and says, hey, you can't go with Tom and TJ, but we're going to give you $280 million to go be on your own show, I'm going to take it. Because you want to know why? Money talks. And so if money is going to talk in a place like Georgia, and if money is going to talk in a place like Michigan, and if money is going to talk in a place like SMU in the future for how much they have in Dallas, or Texas, or LSU, it should be a lot of talk in Miami. Miami was willing to open the bag and say, here, Jackson Cantwell, go become our blindside protector for the next 3 to 5 years. Hopefully you'll end up transitioning into one of the greatest All-American offensive linemen that we've seen, and you'll eventually bring in more talent to surround us because of that's what we do here. And they're willing to spend the money in that right location. You're just pissed off that it was at Miami, and it's not at Georgia, and it's not at LSU, and it's not at Bama, and it's not Michigan. Well, if those programs can go after it, then why can't Miami? The part that people don't want to admit to right now is that Miami is not a great program still. It's a solid program turning the corner, but it hasn't been back to the level of consistency since the early 2000s. And they still talk about it like they want to be at that vicinity. They still talk about that we are one of the greatest. The U carries so much weight. Well, the U doesn't, because if it did, recruits wouldn't be turning down Miami to go to Georgia or LSU or TCU or USC or Michigan State or Ohio State. They'd be looking at the U as a prominent program. So the fact that they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, I think speaks incredible volume. But at the same time, this doesn't put any pressure on Jackson Cantwell, in my opinion, to live up to expectations. It puts more pressure on Mario Cristobal, because of at what point do you realize, hey, you're recruiting at a high level, you're bringing in the right talents. It's clear that we have an identity on what we're trying to target, but they're not developing. We're still finishing 10-2 in ACC play. We're still losing these signature matches because of inept defensive performances or inadequate quarterback play. So there's so many other things that go on with this program that I think puts pressure on Mario Cristobal than it does on the fact of Jackson Cantwell having to get paid this amount by one school. Do I think it would matter if he went to Georgia? Do I think that it would matter if he went to Alabama or Michigan or Ohio State and he would still have the same results? Probably, or at least he would enter the year with the same type of trajectory. But now it's about making sure that he is properly developed. Now it's about making sure that he is properly refined. And now it's about making sure that he actually lives up to that $7 million, $5 million, whatever it is type of contract. But still, please spare me with the, oh, this isn't a money thing. It's been a money in the world of college football for decades. decades. I heard somebody, and I'm not going to call him out, but I have heard somebody talk about an SEC school wanting to stay in the Big 12 because of, they would have had an opportunity to win a conference title. They're getting paid a surplus to go 8-4 in the SEC. I don't think that they hate that SEC money, to say the least, because of that SEC brand carries so much weight to where they wouldn't have that type of location in the Big 12. So those little things that count. Money does speak at the end of the day. And money spoke when it came to the situation. Jackson Canwell is going down to Coral Gables because of money was the deciding factor. That doesn't mean that it was the wrong move for Jackson Canwell. And if anything, it could end up being the wrong move for Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I have no problem with Miami paying up. If you want to, and I don't even know if the right word is overpay or reset the market or whatever, but if you want to go above what Georgia or Oregon or Ohio State are willing to do, and that lands you a prospect, then great. I mean, we see that in the world all the time where, a CEO is considering I was a recruiter before getting into this full time. We would have to outbid for guys at times, right? Like we would have to pay up. Now, we've not seen it in college football. It's different in this sport, but this is not like an insane thing. Well, what is Brady's deal with Fox? If CBS doubled it, he'd be gone tomorrow. Like this is not a controversial thing unless it happens with our favorite sports teams, right? Because it's a new thing here. But if the Lakers were going to offer just whomever, right? $10 million more to play. Like that person's going to LA. And so it's not even uncommon in sports. It's just uncommon in college sports because it's new, right? And so that's why we get upset about it. Now, there are rules in the NBA and NFL, and would I prefer the college model to get there so that you're not overpaying by $2 million, right? There really shouldn't, in my opinion, be a scenario where Miami has the ability to pay $2 million more than Georgia or someone else. And not necessarily the ability, because if Georgia wanted to pay, could they? Sure, whatever. But just, I would like some guardrails around it to kind of bring some more reason into it. But that's more of a preference thing. At the end of the day, if Miami wants to pay more, then that's totally on them. And I don't blame the kid at all. I will say this too. I think money was the ultimate thing that pushed them over the edge. Alex Mirabal is a really good developer of offensive linemen, and they have done a good job. And so, like, I think it's to the Miami fans that want to say money had nothing to do with it, and the Georgia fans that want to say money had everything to do with it. There's a middle ground here. And I know that that's maybe not the best for podcasting or social media. Like, it's better to have a hot take. Alex Mirabal might be the best offensive line coach in the country, and he got the most money to go to Miami. If my kid was a 6'7" offensive lineman that was the number one recruit in the country, yeah, it would be unfortunate, but he'd be at Miami too. Like, let's just be honest. You're going to pay me more money and you're going to give me a better chance at development. Yeah, I'm going there right now. Does he have a better chance to win a national title at Georgia than he does Miami? Probably. But I don't, does that matter to kids? Like, you're going to give me more money and then you're going to set me up for my future and still give me a pretty good shot to compete for titles being in the ACC. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that 10 times out of 10, right? And so I don't blame the kid. I think there's nuance to a lot of the stuff. Again, I think money made a massive impact here. I think if Georgia offers what Miami offers and Miami offers what Georgia offers, he's probably going to Georgia, right? But I don't think he made a bad decision. He didn't go, he didn't go to Florida State, right? Who has no track record of development. And I like Herb Hand there as a new offensive line coach, but he didn't go to a Florida State, right? That's coming off a 2-10 for money alone. He still went to a place with pretty elite offensive line development. And so if he'd have gone to a place like FSU, coming off a terrible season for money alone, would I be happy? Sure. But do I think he made the best decision long-term for his career and just kind of not a short-sighted decision on money only? Yeah, I'd probably question his long-term thinking on that. But Miami does a really good job with, and Mirabal specifically, does a really good job with offensive line. And so, yeah, I don't think this is a bad decision by him at all. We will see what the dividends pay for Miami. Did they maybe overpay and could have used resources other places? And would that have been better for their roster long-term? Proof will be in the pudding on that. But as far as the kid goes, I got no problem with his decision other than being a Miami hater. But, removing myself from that, I got no problems with his decision. He's making more money. I think he has the best developer of his choices at offensive line coach. And I think he sets himself up for the future and the present. investment, current money and future money by committing to Miami. And that's a tough pill to swallow for me, but I don't know. I feel like that's pretty transparent and honest.
Two major things. Number one, look back at Miami's offensive line and look back at Georgia's offensive line last year. Georgia's offensive line was far from away the usual standard that we're used to seeing in Athens. Miami's offensive line was as advertised. So that's a huge selling point for me. And number two, TJ brought this up. He's not going to Iowa State. He's not going to Kansas State. He's not going to Kansas. Or he's not going to Baylor, or he's not going to Syracuse, or he's not going to Boston College. These schools that maybe are willing to throw $7 million at one player and then say, oh, well, we didn't do this for the money. We did this for the ambiance of bringing home a kid that we believe could be a difference maker. He's going to a prime location that has the money, the allocations, and the history of saying, we know how to turn out offensive linemen. We're willing to go ahead and offer you what we think that you're worth.
Is that all we got on that? Is that all we got on Miami?
Well, I'm gonna let recruiting when it comes to linemen. I've learned this from my co-host Justin King. Collect big people and see if it works out. We have no idea if this guy's going to work out. He could just be a big kid. That's it.
Honestly, the fact that we had a conversation about a wide receiver getting paid $3 million. Sorry, I can find a wide receiver anywhere. I may have some struggles finding the right offensive lineman long term. I'm willing to pay that price.
I like the pickup for Miami. I don't like it for me personally. I like the pickup for Miami. We'll see what happens. Again, I don't think anybody is a sure thing. Maybe Jeremiah Smith was the closest to a sure thing, but very few kids are. I think this was a good pickup for Miami. We'll find out in a year or two. Let's rant a little bit about Big Noon Kickoff. I've got some takes here, and I'm excited for Cole's too, but being the Big Ten guy, Tom, the floor is yours.
As the Big Ten guy.
Let's hear it.
And also, I spent 9 years working with WWE, and at one point had an overlapping relationship with people at Fox and Fox Sports. So I understand how all of this has been constructed from a business standpoint. It makes way too much sense. They set up Big Noon Kickoff, and then they have the game that they've been talking about for 2-3 hours occur at noon. It rolls right into it. It's standard television practice. It makes all the sense in the world. I believe this deal with the Big Ten runs through 2030 with Fox and Big Noon Kickoff. So let me get that out of the way at first. And shout out to Rob Stone, who's a friend, and I know plenty of people that work there. As a fan, and a Penn State fan on top of that, Big Noon, I'm not a fan because it takes the time of the game away. From the time I started playing football when I was in middle school through the time that I just stopped in high school because I got hurt all the time, the consensus among anybody who's ever played the sport, a night game just feels different. It feels better. It feels bigger. It feels important. We've said for decades that the night game, the primetime game, is the game to see. Now, ESPN and College Game Day still pretty much consider that model and do things that same way. And they have had that issue, but Game Day is a much larger brand than Big Noon Kickoff. So they don't have that problem. They can still put on a huge show in the morning and then give you a killer game at night. Nobody's really that upset about it. They do what they do. This kills, like Penn State, for instance, it kills the whiteout. It kills the entire semblance of it. And then it goes to like the second or third best home game on the schedule. It just doesn't mean as much. The whole point was to do it against the best opponent possible. For me, the first one that got announced was Texas at Ohio State in week 1, Arch Manning's first game as the full-fledged starter for the Texas Longhorns in 2025, going up against maybe Julian Sayin as the starting quarterback for Ohio State, reigning national champions, like 1 billion story points. And it's going to be at noon. Wouldn't this just be bigger if it was at 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. or whatever the hell you're going to do? This is one of the things that the business of college football has altered and changed. The heart of it has changed, the way it feels, like all those things that you can't really put a dollar amount on. It's changed, but I completely understand the business. If I worked at Fox Sports, I'd do the exact same thing. But as a fan, I don't love it.
In a standpoint of this being the standalone game for Fox, and really that opening early window when FSU and Alabama is going to be the midday game, and then you have to throw in the matchup between LSU and Clemson as the night game on ESPN. This is a way to guarantee that you are the primetime matchup and that ratings will go through the roof, which I completely understand from a business perspective. I don't care about the business side when looking at this from a fan perspective. I care about this looking at it from a what is the best course of action for this to raise the stakes, up the intensity, and make sure that this is a whole day charade. The game ends at 3:30. That means that I have to live for the rest of the evening with the results of what we watched. That means I can either drink my sorrows away or I can go celebrate. But at the same time, part of the ambiance of being part of the world of college football is the tailgating. It's the prep leading up to the game. It's the matchups. It's hearing the conversations and the dialogue between multiple sports shows. It's being able to have the shit talking moments with certain people that are on either sidelines. It's going throughout the travel experiences. Now, if you are going to this game, and a game that I believe could have massive college football playoff implications for seeding purposes, I still believe that Texas and Ohio State right now are both going to go to the dozen dance. Like, I'm fully invested that these two teams, the outcome of this game will not deteriorate their pathway to the postseason. I don't think that. But it could have major implications for where they end up going in their pathway to a national championship. You have to wake up at 5 a.m. just to get the entire shindig of what a full day atmosphere is like in these matchups. And when I look at it from a fan's perspective, there is probably nothing better than watching the sun go down at the shoe as the Longhorns take the field, and then they have to hear the thunderous uproar of Ohio State's band dot the I, and then the Buckeyes, defending national champions, take the field. And the other part of this that is just so infuriating to me is that Ohio State is the national champions. Ohio State, regardless of who was their competition, especially when it's a primetime matchup, should get the opportunity to pick when they want to take the field. Not get told, oh, you have to be the 11 o'clock game because of Fox is saying that this is going to do great for numbers. If they want to go ahead and close out the night and be the 8 o'clock kickoff, guess what? They won the title. They get to have a little bit of bragging rights. They get to say, no. We're going to pick when we welcome in the 2025 season, especially against a team that we beat to get to the national championship. And to a lot of us, it felt like that game was better than what the national championship ended up becoming. So I hate it from that perspective. I get it from a ratings perspective. I get it from the fact that Fox wants to put as many eyeballs on the television screens. But spare me that this is good for the sport. What this is good for is the revenue and the pockets of those who are writing the checks to make sure that Fox Big Noon is going to still be a huge staple in the world of college football.
It is going to do gangbuster numbers, ratings, all that sort of stuff, because a million storylines going into this thing.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that sucks, man, is that like we sit here, it's bad for the sport. As a fan, we don't like it. We're all still going to tune in.
Yeah. It's like the
Still gonna watch it. I'm not happy about it, but
the dumbest argument I hear from people all the time, especially those that work in the sport. How dare they have the national championship on a Monday? Okay, don't watch. Oh, wait, you're still going to watch the game? Okay, then you're just complaining about something that's not going to change. You want to know when it changes? When the ratings drop to record lows because fans don't want to watch a game that is meant for Saturday on a Monday night. Until then, it's still going to be on a Monday, so you might as well embrace what is the current status of college football.
So maybe I'm a loser for this take. I agree that it sucks for the fans of the programs that have to play in it. I think it's good for the rest of college football fans. I think the rest of college football fans like the fact that hopefully the middle game is competitive, but I think the rest of college football fans like the fact that they get an absolute killer matchup in the noon window, the Alabama-Florida State game at 3:30, and then Clemson-LSU at night. Like, I think that the rest of the college football world can sympathize with the Ohio State and the Texas fans that are going to that game. But I think the rest of the world enjoys the fact, and I think that college football has become, unfortunately, more about the TV experience than the in-person experience, right? The 100,000 fans that are going to the game versus the 12 to 15 to 18 that are going to watch it on TV or more, right? 18 million. And so I do feel the sympathy for the fans there at the game, but I understand not catering to the 100,000 to do what's best for the 15 to 20 million. Maybe that makes me a loser of a take. I don't know. I'm just trying to have some thought about it, but I like it because if as much as I don't want to watch Florida State, Alabama in some respects, I wouldn't watch Texas Ohio State at all if it was at 3:30, right? And then I want to watch LSU Clemson as well, but I wouldn't watch that at all if Texas Ohio State was at night, right? And so as a fan that's sitting on the couch watching, which I'll actually be in Tallahassee for it, but as a fan that is watching all day, I like having a good game in every window. I understand the complaint if you're a fan that is going to the games. I would be supremely pissed off if Florida State, Alabama was at noon. That's a terrible experience. I would hate that. But I do understand why they're catering to the millions, not the 100,000 that are there at the game. Does that make it right? No. Do I wish it would change? No. If I'm at home, would I, any other week, would I rather see Ohio State in prime time for their big games? Yes. In this specific scenario, I don't hate it as much. I like getting a good game in every window and not just the noon window being a snooze, right? So I don't know. Maybe that's a bad take. Maybe it's not, but
I'll tell you what, as a Penn State fan, again, not to be a total homer, if they make Penn State versus Oregon this year a big noon kickoff, which is far and away Penn State's biggest home game, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Penn State fans will be furious. They'll still tune in. They'll still go to the game, but Penn State fans are continuing to be pissed off about it. And the program, it's not just the fans, like the program is legitimately like, dude, we started doing this thing to create a spectacle and a home field advantage, and you've completely taken it away from us. So like the question's been put out there. I was like, why are we still doing this anymore? Because it doesn't mean anything to do it against like the third or fourth best team on your home schedule within the Big Ten. Like, it's just silly.
I don't disagree with you, TJ, on one thing. It does do wonders for the rest of college football, but just spare me on this part. If you switch it with Florida State and Alabama, that becomes the 11 a.m. kick. It's brutal weather. It's disgusting for both of these teams out in Tallahassee, but that becomes the first game. The middle game is Texas versus Ohio State, and then you close out with Clemson versus LSU. Nobody's complaining. I would say probably that 1%er is complaining that they're not the primetime game on Saturday afternoon. That'd be it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Tony Petitti, you're the one that signed the deal with these networks. Does he have the power to change this or no?
Not for a while. I think not until 2030, if I'm correct.
Well,
but again,
to change the window.
Change the window?
Yeah, to work on the window. When Oregon, doesn't Oregon have a pretty big game? Who's Oregon's big game out there?
Well, they have Indiana at one point this year. So
yeah, I guess they don't have a huge one there in 2025. I mean, they're not going to get the noon window because they're not going to start a game out there at 9 a.m., right? So
Could they please, just to make it fair at this point, and people understand that it's dumb to have a Pac-12 team in the Big Ten?
Yes, it is. It is very dumb. But I don't know. I get it. I would hate it too if I was a fan of those teams. I don't hate it getting to watch good football. So it's hard to, but I understand both sides. All right, let's quickly do this. Let's quickly talk about, we talked about it a little bit in the open. Cole went on his, Tom may agree with this. So number one team in the country. Who should that be, Tom?
Again, I know I'm super biased. I do think Penn State has a credible argument to be the preseason number one. I said it earlier on, so I think we kind of already tackled this, but I'd hear an argument for Texas. I'd hear an argument for Ohio State. I'd hear an argument for Clemson. Even that would feel like a little bit of a reach. And it's interesting that I think 4 out of the top 5 that a lot of people have put out there have been non-SEC teams. Most of them have been Big Ten teams. So yeah, I'm really curious to see where this goes, but I try not to lose too much sleep over. If anything, as a Penn State fan, I don't want to see Penn State as number one. It hasn't happened since 1997. So putting those types of expectations out there, I'm like, don't do it. Don't make the hype that real for us when already we've been a team that has struggled getting through the finish line, that sort of thing. So I'd like it for not to be Penn State, but I would be completely understanding if it were Penn State.
I will say if there was an argument for one other team, I would go Clemson. And the reason why is because of what you have returning. I mean, it's going to be a very dominant offense headlined by 3 NFL caliber wide receivers, a first probably since 2016. You have a returning quarterback and a returning offensive coordinator. Their defensive coordinator that they just brought in led Penn State to the college football playoff semifinals. They have two really good front seven players in TJ Parker and Peter Woods. Arian Terrell, I think, is going to be a standout cornerback in the ACC, and their schedule is manageable. So when you add all that together, I think it does show that that Clemson returning production, what they added in, the fact that Dabo was willing to dabble just a little bit in the transfer portal by bringing in Will Bent from Purdue just to get better in the pass rushing department. It's showing that change is coming to the Tigers. And if it can start off really well in Death Valley against LSU, the rest of the schedule is pretty manageable outside of two more games, South Carolina in the Palmetto Bowl, and then you got to go play against a team in Georgia Tech that may be a little bit of trouble in Bobby Dowd Stadium.
Yeah, I think Penn State makes the most sense. I'm not a huge fan of just automatically crowning Ohio State because they won last year. I think that's one of the worst things we do with preseason rankings. I think last year should be kind of negated from your mind. Now, if you just like the talent that Ohio State has and that's your reasoning, that's fine. Georgia kind of falls in that same category. Like, questions at quarterback. What, will their offensive line be better? Running game be better? It's got to be Penn State. I feel like, and I'm really high on Clemson. I think they have a chance to go 12, but I don't know that I could put them at 1. It almost feels like it's got to be Penn State by default. If Oregon was more of a sure thing at quarterback, maybe you could go back there again. But yeah, I mean, I just don't even think Cole's take was that controversial.
No. Every team outside of Penn State, I think, has one major fault. And for Penn State, the fault is, can James Franklin not find a way to mess it up? I mean, like, if that's your fault, your coach finding a way to fumble the bag at the 1 yard line, you're in a pretty good spot overall, roster-wise.
All right. This is going to be a fun wild card, I think, but maybe not. Maybe you guys will hate this. This is going to be like a 2-week wild card. Shoot, we might even turn this into like a 4-week wild card. We'll see kind of how things go. But I saw a tweet this morning that sparked this idea of doing a draft for over-under win totals. So we're going to go through the SEC today. Sorry, Tom. We'll do the Big Ten next week. We are going to draft over-unders in the SEC. You'll each get 8 teams. We're going to snake draft it. I feel like I give Tom too much love on here, so Cole gets to go first, but Tom will have 2 picks each time, right? So
yeah.
Okay.
You pick the team and the over-under that you want. So I'm going to text them to you guys right now. I didn't want to do this here because I didn't want you to be able to think about it beforehand. But here are the Circa Sports win totals for the SEC teams this year. You can pick any team you want. You want to pick Bama first. You want to pick South Carolina. You want to pick Mississippi State. You pick the team. You pick the over-under. Cole, you are up first. What are you most confident? And then we are going to track this. I'm going to cut this. We're going to see who wins. We're going to go through all the Power 4 conferences, and we'll see who wins at the end of the year. But, Cole, what you got?
I'm going to take the over on LSU. I think that's one of the easiest bets in college football this year. I love their wide receiver core. I love what they have at quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier back. I think their defense is going to be completely revamped for Blake Baker. I love Patrick Payton coming on in. I like what they have with Jack Pyburn. The AJ Kalsi addition from the University of Houston, that was just like the icing on the cake for me. 8.5 feels like that's even too low for where LSU should be in terms of what they've been able to retain and returning production. And the same way I feel about Penn State is the same way I feel about LSU. Can your head coach not find a way to fumble the bag at the 1 yard line? But 8.5, that's an easy over.
Tom?
I have back-to-back, correct?
You do.
All right. I'm going to take Tennessee under 8.5. And I'm going to take Missouri under 7.5.
Ooh.
I just feel like those are the most sure things on here. But like Tennessee, you have no idea what this team is going to look like with Joey Aguilar as the quarterback. Like, it could be great. It could be a dumpster fire. And there's a lot of pieces that they have to replace from last season. And then Mizzou, as much as I personally believe in Bo Perbula being the starting quarterback, I just don't see it within the schedule. So I'm going to take under for both of those.
Cole, you get 2.
I'll take the easy, low-hanging fruit. I think that even though Texas lost a lot in terms of returning production, you have Arch Manning. I love the additions that they brought in the transfer portal, and your schedule is manageable. So 9.5 feels very relaxed when it comes to that. I still believe that they're going to be in that 10-2, 11-1 range, go to the college football playoff. So I'm buying stock in what the Longhorns are selling. And then I'm going to take the under on Arkansas. I just look at the roster top to bottom right now. And yes, I love Taylor Green. And yes, I do think that Braylon Russell could be a decent running back. But you have holes everywhere. You have holes in your offensive line. You have holes in your secondary. You lost ample talent to other SEC schools. You have one qualified receiver in Omega Blake, who's coming on in from Charlotte last year. So I just think that when you look at your schedule, which, by the way, still features games against LSU and Notre Dame and Tennessee, and you also got to throw in Texas A&M for the first time, not in Arlington. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of Sam Pittman. So I'm going to say Arkansas minus 5.5. I think they're closer to 4-8 this year.
Tom, you too.
I get 2. I'm going to go South Carolina under 7.5. And I'm taking a peek at, I'm going to say Oklahoma under 8. Just looking at Oklahoma's schedule, you have
so
Michigan.
Oklahoma here is 7.
Oklahoma. Oh, I'm sorry, at 7. That's
so you don't even have to. You could move off them completely now. I won't lock you into that.
I guess. Damn, that's a tough one. I thought that was at 8. Yeah. I think I'll stick with the under on Oklahoma actually, because I'm looking at it like Michigan, Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Mizzou, LSU. Like, there's a lot of 50-50 games on that schedule. I could see them coming in under that number.
Ooh, 4 unders for Tom so far. 3 overs for Cole. Cole, you gonna keep with the over? What you got?
I'll take an I just don't buy into them this year. Kentucky under at 4.5. I think that Zach Calzada is your starting quarterback. That brings me a lot of questions. I think that last season you got very lucky to hit the 4-8 marker when you could have been 3-9 with a loss to with a loss to Ole Miss. That should have been in play. I think your roster's worse than it was last year because you lost multiple players at the wide receiver position. I don't think you got better. So I'm taking the under there. It's Georgia, and I can't doubt Georgia. I want to doubt Georgia, but I just can't. So I'll take the over at 9.5. I do believe Gunnar Stockton's going to be fine as your starting quarterback. I like what you brought in at wide receiver with Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas. I don't think your offensive line is going to be terrible. I think that you did a good job of backpiling in some players on your defensive front. I think Josh McCray from Illinois is going to be a really good change of pace runner to pair alongside with Nate Frazier. And you get Alabama at home. You get Texas in your backyard. Auburn, I don't know what to make of the Tigers right now. I get the game's at Jordan Hare, but it's no longer also a tougher matchup with Tennessee. I think that Florida right now, depending on where they are, is kind of a toss-up too. So it's like, it feels just inevitable that 10-2 is going to be right there for the Bulldogs in 2025.
So here's what's left: Auburn, Texas A&M, Florida, Ole Miss, Vandy, Mississippi State, Alabama. I texted that to you as well, but Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, Florida, Ole Miss, Vandy, Mississippi State. Tom, you get 2.
Thank you for keeping track of these because I was losing track. I'm going to go with Ole Miss over 8.5. I think Austin Simmons has the potential to really break out this year, and I'm very curious to see what Ole Miss is able to do this year. Their schedule kind of lines up in their favor. Like the SEC, it's just a murderer's row in general. And then Florida, they're loaded with 50-50 games. There's like 7 of them on the schedule that I'm looking at but I think Lagway at least gets them to 8. So I'll go with my first 2 overs. I'll go with Ole Miss 8.5 and Florida 7.5.
Cole?
All right, over Vanderbilt at 5.5. Depth Texas Cole Thompson believing that Diego Pavia is better than advertised. He is Baba Yaga. He is the boogeyman. He is going to put belt to ass against whoever he plays, and he may end up losing some games because if his defense doesn't put up the right numbers, but it's not because of Diego Pavia. Number 2 is number 1 in my heart, so I'm just going to continue to ride the Pavia Express, and so 5.5 on that one. Okay, so out of curiosity, if it's 8 for both Texas A&M and Auburn, what does that mean? They have to finish 8-4. They have to finish 9-3 if I take the over.
So if you push, we'll just be to that, we'll just invalidate that. So we'll do this based on percentages. So we'll make that a tie or a push, but it's not gonna Like I think Tom took the under on Oklahoma at 7. So if they hit 7 wins, we just throw that out. You get your money back. So we won't count it against you if they push.
I'm going to take the under on Texas A&M because I think it's going to be a push at 8-4 this year. Here's the bottom line. I do not hate Texas A&M. People think that I am just disgustedly hating on the Aggies and the 12-man culture. I'm not. You have a good offensive line. You have a good running back room. You have 3 running backs that probably could all start in the SEC. But you don't have a pass rush outside of Cassius Howell. You have questions in your secondary still. You have questions with your quarterback and Marcel Reed as a full-time playmaker. He's super athletic, but can he give you 4 quarters of consistency as a passer? What happens if your offensive line loses a player? How do you feel about your depth? I think this is, again, an 8-win team, so I'll take the under because I don't see them getting past it.
Tom, let's ping pong this one. So just pick one, and then you'll end up with the last pick too. But Auburn, Mississippi State, Alabama.
We're going to finish strong under Mississippi State 3.5. Looking at their schedule, all of their wins should be non-con wins. I see them going winless in the SEC this year.
We are left with the Iron Bowl. Which side of it do you want, Cole?
I'm never taking Auburn as an Alabama fan. It would be disgusting to do that. So give me the Crimson Tide. I'm actually really high on this wide receiver room. I'm really high on this defense. Their secondary is loaded, so much so that I think that we're going to talk about them as a top 10 unit. I think Kane Womack is going to get consideration for the Broyles Award and probably back into the conversation of being a head coach. I don't really care who's playing quarterback. I like Ryan Williams. I like Jeremy Bernard. I like Isaiah Horton. Go ahead and give me the Crimson Tide over -9.5.
When Florida State upsets them week 1, you're going to be sweating that out.
I'm going to be sweating like crazy.
And Tom, take us home with Auburn. Over, under.
Under. I'm going to go under. I think they'll be fun to watch this year, but just looking at their schedule right now, 7-5, 6-6 makes sense.
Yeah, they would have to really shock to get to 9 wins. So the no hook there really, I think, protects you. I like the pick of under as well. Just if they get to 8-4, you're fine. They're more likely to go 7-5 than 9-3, I would think. So I think that's the smart pick on that one. All right, TJ Pittinger, Tom Hannafin, Cole Thompson. Another week of the Power 2. We'll be back next week. We'll do the Big Ten for a wild card, so you guys can study up on that one. You kind of have a leg up, but then I won't tell you which way we'll go in week 3 of this 4-part wild card series. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe over on YouTube so we can see your comments. We appreciate those that watch on X, but we can't comment unless you're on YouTube. So go over there and hang out. We appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.